So let's go ahead and jump straight into this one because this situation just became much, much bigger for John Thune. What began with President Trump demanding that the Senate cancel its August recess has now reportedly grown into a movement involving as many as 12 Republican senators who say Congress should remain in Washington and continue fighting for the Save America Act. Now, this creates a serious predicament, a big problem for John Thune because his argument has been staying in Washington will not change the math. Republicans don't currently have enough support to eliminate the filibuster. That's been his whole sticking point. But Trump and these Republican senators are making a different argument now. Even when the votes are not there today, leadership should force the debate, force senators to vote publicly and make Democrats, and for that matter, whoever else, explain why they are blocking the legislation. And so now you have senators who seem to be threatening to object to the Senate leaving town and demand a recorded vote on the August recess itself. And so if you're one of these senators who's so dead set on skipping town to go kiss up to your donors to secure more campaign dollars, then put your name on it. Stand on it. That way the people know exactly who you are. And so let's go ahead and jump into this one. But first, smash that thumbs up button. If you do enjoy the content, that's the best way you can let me know. Subscribe to stay locked in with future videos. And shout out to everyone who watches to the very end. I appreciate everybody. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. And so let's begin here. We now have a dozen Republican senators pledging to stay in session through August recess to send the Save America Act to President Trump's desk, force a roll call vote, and do not roll over. Secure elections are worth the fight. Here are the 12 senators, ladies and gentlemen. This is the list, as you can see. And so let's get into this because you have President Trump. He spoke once again on this issue being questioned. What's your reaction to Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying there is no evident path to success on killing the filibuster or passing the Save America Act? Take a listen.
Leader Thune, what's your reaction to him saying that there's no evident path to success on killing the filibuster or passing the Save America Act?
Well, that's too bad for him. I mean, that's too bad for him and too bad for the Republican Party.
Do you believe that?
He's got the votes. He should get it done. He should be able to get it done.
Mr. President.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and break that down. President Trump, sure with his words. I mean, at this point, the job that needs to be done is pretty clear and it's pretty basic and it's pretty well known. Get the SAVE Act passed. And here he is right here when a reporter asked, do you think John Thune is still the man for the job? And this is President Trump's answer. Take a listen.
Majority Leader John Thune, after the comments you heard regarding Save America and some other stuff, do you think he's still the man for the job?
Well, we're going to find out, and I'll let you know.
Mr. President.
Yeah, so right there, the president making it clear that we will find out and he will let you know. Now, I think he already does know, but I think he's just still giving John Thune perhaps a little bit of hope, a little bit of just, let me see what you got. I think many people who've been following along with this already feel as if John Thune is not working for the American people, is not doing all that he can to pass the Save America Act. He is not all in on making sure that our elections are fair, safe, and secure. That seems to not currently be where he stands as far as willing to do any and everything in order to get it done. But let's take a listen to the Senate Majority Leader himself, John Thune, on the possibility of canceling August recess. And hear what he has to say now after President Trump's latest comments, as well as now, like I said, about a dozen senators who are saying, hey, let's stay in Washington and get this figured out. But take a listen to this.
Leader Thune, are you still planning to proceed with the August recess now that about 12 of your Republican colleagues are calling to stay behind on the recess and work through to get the Save America Act passed?
I'm for anything that we can do to get the Save America Act passed. The question I always ask is, what is your picture of victory? What is the ending here? If, in fact, staying here for the month of August means that we assume at some point there are going to be 10 Democrats who cross over and vote for the Save America Act, I think if we stay here till Christmas, that's not going to happen. And the other thing I would say about that is that there are going to be 50 votes to get rid of the legislative filibuster. So if budget reconciliation is a path forward, if we conclude that there's actually a chance to get an outcome or a result there, I'm open to doing it. I think all of our colleagues would be open to staying around here if that were true. But I think that we have to see, first of all, that can be proven to be the case. And but I don't think, having a Congress sitting around here for the month of August in forum halls or having to vote on Democrat amendments is probably a good use of anybody's time. So we will see and see where the conversation goes.
Yeah, and so let's go ahead and break this down, because my read on this situation is just one of John Thune. He's thrown in the towel. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like he's throwing in the towel and saying, well, I give up. Democrats will never change their minds. Now, he doesn't even want to go for the talking filibuster to see what that path looks like, because what someone says on day one versus what someone says, and I talked about this in last video, ladies and gentlemen, what someone says after they have to spend multiple Saturdays, because when you got the talking filibuster, they have to be there. 1964, during the Civil Rights Act, 7 Saturdays, they were stuck there in the Senate, forced to have to continuously just keep on debating. And eventually, they got it figured out in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act. Fast forward today, and John Thune is basically throwing in the towel, doesn't even want to attempt that to say what is possible on day one, or what seems impossible on day one may become a lot more possible after a few weeks of, missing Saturdays and not having the same time off and ready to just kind of be done with it. And that's the problem we have right now. We have a Senate Majority Leader in John Thune who does not want to put pressure, real pressure, on the Democrat Party. He doesn't want to do it. Instead, he's allowing them to skate by, basically. But let's go back to those dozen Republican senators, because if John Thune is not gonna put the pressure on the Democrats, these 12 senators are showing that they will put the pressure on John Thune. They will speak out. They are revolting. They are showing that they do not agree and that they stand with the American people and saying, hey, we'll stay in Washington and get this done. And so take a listen to this. We have Senator Jim Banks says it's time to get tough, cancel recess, secure our elections, and stop the fraud. And so take a listen to this.
If we don't pass it, the politics are going to be really bad for us at the ballot box in the midterm election. I fully agree with you, but we have an opportunity, and right in front of us, James Braid, the Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House, and Russ Vought, the Director of OMB, came to our Republican Senate lunch today and laid out the pathway forward. And it's this reconciliation bill that the House passed over to the Senate. We need to pass it right now before we take a recess and get the reconciliation bill passed to fund the military, pass the Save America Act, voter ID in our elections. And if we do that, we'll win big in the midterm election on November 3rd.
Yeah, so you're saying no vacay until you get the Save America Act and the rest of it.
I think that's a big part of our victory. I mean, on top of the big, beautiful bill last year. No vacation. No recess. By the way, there's a growing chorus. I think a third of the Republicans in the Senate have said this out loud. No recess, pass the Save America Act. That's what our voters expect us to do. The voter ID, the Save America Act is an 80-20 issue. This is a winning issue for Republicans, and it's the right thing to do. The biggest news in the last week was the Democrat governor in New Jersey admitting out loud that 6,600 illegals were placed on the voter rolls in New Jersey, and that hundreds of them voted in the 2023 and 2024 elections in New Jersey. If that's not the biggest reason I've heard yet to pass the Save America Act, to stop illegals from voting in our elections, our American elections should only be for Americans. I don't know that there's been a better reason I've seen yet than that to pass the Save America Act and to pass it right now.
Folks, this all sounds like pretty basic understanding to me. Get the Save Act passed. It's amazing that you have people who want to go away on vacation, want to take a recess, instead of doing the work of the American people that they were sworn in, that they signed up to do. Pretty amazing. It's no real sense of urgency. That's what I'm gathering from this. John Thune has no sense of urgency. This idea that there aren't enough votes to pass it through reconciliation with the 50 votes, there's no sense of urgency. there's no sense of urgency with the midterms right around the corner, and perhaps it's because they're not worried about losing the Senate as much as they're worried about losing the House. The House is in far more danger of flipping Democrat than the Senate is. And so maybe they're like, who knows what these people are thinking and what their logic or what their reason is for not wanting to push through a piece of legislation that clearly is something that a vast majority, no matter what side of the political aisle you fall on, a vast majority of people agree when it comes to voter ID, showing proof that you're an American citizen in order to vote. Let's get to this next part because there's more. Ashley Moody, another senator, ladies and gentlemen, Florida Republican, tripled down, saying she's refusing to agree to August recess along with Mike Lee. Mike Lee, if you remember, was the senator who basically spearheaded this whole idea, this movement of don't go home, no recess, stay in Washington, opposing John Thune and saying we need to get this done. And now you have several, as you just saw, a dozen senators who are saying, let's stay in Washington. Ashley Moody's another one. Take a listen.
11 of your colleagues are also calling for the recess to be canceled. Do you think the Senate will stay in Washington, and do you expect the Save America Act to get over the finish line?
Well, I have continued those conversations, and I'm so excited that since I made that statement that we should stay in Washington, so many of my colleagues have stood up and said they will not agree or consent to a recess unless we get the Save America Act back to the floor. I mean, the American people want a vote. I can't tell you how many people in Florida, no matter where I go, want the Senate to vote on this. And so, we're not going to agree to a recess. We're going to push forward. I will continue to have discussions with leadership on why this is so important. Again, like I told you when we started this conversation this morning, Maria, my goal here in the Senate is to restore trust by the people in their government, that their government is working with them, for them, with their best interests in mind every day. And we've got to get this vote going.
Who's against? Who can you tell us is actually against having citizenship proof to vote? What's the problem with showing that you're a citizen?
I think there's no problem. I don't think there should be a debate. I stood on the floor on Monday night and tried to pass it by unanimous consent. And a Democrat showed up and objected. I dared them to, and they did. But here it is. To know who is objecting, we need the vote. The American people are owed that.
All the more reason why we need the talking filibuster, not this silent filibuster nonsense. Just for anybody who may not be all that aware of exactly what the silent filibuster is, let me just go ahead and read this off for you. A silent filibuster is a modern U.S. Senate tactic, of course it's modern, where a senator or a group of senators blocks a measure simply by signaling their intent to object, thereby forcing a 60-vote supermajority threshold to pass legislation. Unlike the traditional talking filibuster, where lawmakers hold the floor by continuously speaking for hours to prevent a vote, the silent filibuster replaces a marathon debate with the mere threat of one. And so Democrats can remain faceless, can remain nameless. The American people don't have to know who these people are. Basically, it's just name only. The Democrats, which is, it doesn't put a face to it. And Republicans right now, John Thune, they're allowing that. But now you do have these 12 GOP senators, Mike Lee being one of the main orchestrators, first to say, hey, let's not go. We're not going anywhere. Let's stay in Washington and get this done. And so take a listen to this. Mike Lee. Some may continue to attack the idea of keeping the Senate in session in August to debate the Save America Act, describing it as a recipe for failure and frustration. Some may even try to make that warning a self-fulfilling prophecy. It need not, and I believe it will not, end in failure if we follow the simple approach I've outlined, informed by centuries of Senate custom and practice. There may be other ways to skin this cat, and I'm certainly open to other options. Budget reconciliation could be one alternative, but it's a far more complicated way to achieve the same ends, one that has far more points of potential failure than the true talking filibuster. Also, as time-consuming as the talking filibuster can be, at this point, it might be the only option we have time to complete before the election in November. Regardless, I'm confident that the approach I've described, if followed, would put us in the best possible position to pass the Save America Act. If someone's got a better idea for how to give us the best shot possible, I'm all ears. But in the meantime, we can't let the naysayers win simply because we can't guarantee victory. Now take a listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, also from Mike Lee, laying out the 7 steps to election security. Step 1, listen to this. Call up the Save America Act. 2, announce that we'll keep debating it for at least a few weeks, working through weekends and schedule recess time until it passes. No being able to just enjoy yourself, having the weekends off, pretending as if everything is just all right. No, you have a job to do and you got to get that job done. And until then yeah, you put in a few extra hours, you put in some overtime, you put in the manpower and get it done. This is what people do each and every single day in their regular everyday lives when they have a deadline to meet, when they got to get the job done. They stay and work a little bit more. They stay past their normal shift hours. They put in a few extra weekends for overtime. I think the Senate can do that also. I think they can do without, I brought this up in the last video, 153 days remaining between July and December. 105 of those days, they're on recess, ladies and gentlemen. And that's how it stands right now. Now, we'll see if that changes with August, but 105 days of recess remain this year for the Senate, ladies and gentlemen. 68.6%. I brought this up on my last video. You guys can go check that one out. With only what does that leave? 48 days out of the 153 where they're actually working. Make it make sense, but let's continue. Require filibustering senators to speak, with the understanding that if they fail to do so, the rules allow us to call the question and pass it at 51. J.D. Vance will be that 51st. And we know where he's going to go with his vote, obviously. Stick to the plan, especially when it draws complaints from senators and become tedious, waiting at least a few weeks before even thinking about filing cloture. This is how the Senate worked before. We zombified the filibuster, making it automatic, silent, and free of obligation. Filibuster abuse has become rampant, insurmountable, and even debilitating as we've stopped requiring filibustering senators to do anything other than oppose cloture, or even simply announce an intent to oppose cloture. Human nature and over 2 centuries of Senate history tell us that when senators are required to engage in hard work and continual speaking to sustain a filibuster, they tend to wield it more responsibly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not rocket science, at least in my opinion. When you force people to actually have to stand up for what they say they believe in and make their argument, sure, day one, they're full of energy, they're full of excitement, they're full of fight. But the longer something goes on, the more you keep on just chipping and chipping and chipping away. Eventually, people bend, people break, people give up. John Thune seems to not understand or even want to consider that possibility. These 12 GOP senators, at least as we speak, believe that that is a possibility. And so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget you enjoy the content. Smash that thumbs up. Best way to let me know. Subscribe to stay locked in with the future videos. And as always, until next time.